General Hospital Spoilers reveal that the suspicion growing in Jason and Carly's minds about Willow's trip to Germany is becoming increasingly heavy and impossible to ignore. Especially as the data Spinelli uncovers begins to paint a picture starkly different from what Willow had told them. At first, they simply thought Willow might have lied to hide some personal feelings, perhaps due to rejection, heartbreak, or shame, but the truth that slowly emerged was far from an innocent lie. It was a series of strange, tangled, and dangerously alarming clues that made both Jason and Carly shudder. When Spinelli cross-checked flight records, he discovered that the flight Willow supposedly took did not match up with any security checkpoints that recorded her image, biometric data, or physical interactions. No airport cameras in either Port Charles or Baden-Baden had any record of her presence. There was no sign she had ever boarded a plane. Everything seemed orchestrated to support a false narrative. Jason immediately sensed danger, having been familiar with identity manipulation and staged travel routes during his time in the criminal underworld. Signs like these weren't random or technical errors, they were the outcome of a deliberate, calculated, and well-executed plan. Carly initially tried to stay optimistic, thinking maybe Willow had someone else book her ticket or used an alternate route with incomplete documentation. But the more Jason analyzed the situation and the more Spinelli's reports piled up, the more the chills set in. Willow never went to Germany. That was no longer a suspicion, it was a cold, undeniable fact. But if she didn't go there, then where did she go? And who knew about it? The answer came unexpectedly from an encrypted file Spinelli managed to crack while tracing communication signals from Willow's personal device. Inside the backup system of a secure messaging app, he found a command string sent to a device registered under an alias once used by Drew Kane in his classified operations. The message was short but chilling. Operation Echo, move immediately. Leave no trace, absolute security. The message's timestamp matched exactly with Willow's departure from Port Charles, and the wording suggested it was a pre-planned strategic operation meant to be kept entirely secret. Jason, who had spent years involved with organizations tied to covert missions, instantly recognized this as a covert op, one typically carried out by trained operatives or individuals coerced into participating due to family leverage or personal secrets. Willow was not the type to be involved in anything like this. She was a nurse, a mother, a woman reeling from a broken marriage. That's what made Jason realize she couldn't have embarked on something so dangerous unless someone had pulled her into it, maybe even controlled her. And only one person had both the means, motive, and ruthlessness to do that at this time: Drew. Carly could only clench her fists as a surge of indescribable fear rose within her. If Drew was truly behind this, then he wasn't just manipulating legal systems or emotions to gain custody, he was dragging Willow into a life-and-death game. Things turned even more insane when Spinelli continued analyzing hidden logs from a tracking device secretly installed on Willow's car. It revealed an entirely different route. Instead of flying to Germany as she claimed, she had traveled thousands of miles in the opposite direction, to a private training facility reportedly operated by a paramilitary organization. This place had previously been linked to the exchange of sensitive information and had once been under CIA surveillance. Satellite imagery captured a woman matching Willow's physique at the facility around the time of her absence from Port Charles. While they couldn't confirm the identity with 100% certainty, all clues were pointing to a chilling conclusion: Willow didn't go to visit Michael. She had been drawn into a secret operation and could be entangled in forces far beyond Jason and Carly's control. Now, everything was crashing down on them. They weren't just trying to uncover the truth behind a lie, they were facing a living nightmare, where someone they loved might have become a pawn in a ruthless game of power, secrets, and manipulation. Jason clenched his jaw, his eyes sharp as blades, vowing he wouldn't stop until he found where Willow really was, what she had gotten involved in, and who was behind it all. Carly, meanwhile, started to panic, realizing she had underestimated Drew for far too long, that what he was hiding wasn't just greed, but a capacity for cold, calculated exploitation, even of someone who once called him husband. In that twisted silence, Jason and Carly both understood, all lines had been crossed. This wasn't about custody or broken hearts anymore. This was war, and at the heart of it was Willow. The woman they had to find, rescue, and pull from the merciless spiral Drew had secretly crafted. Willow, meanwhile, was facing a devastating reckoning. The lies she once told, meant merely to hide personal pain, were now at the center of a storm of suspicion and a crisis spiraling far out of control. As layers of truth began peeling away, the carefully crafted words she once used to protect herself now returned like fire racing through dry hay, igniting a new terror, not just for Carly and Jason, but for Willow herself. Spinelli's evidence became clearer by the day. Not only had she never gone to Germany, but it was slowly becoming apparent that Willow was not a victim at all. She might be playing an active role in a darker conspiracy than anyone had imagined. This wasn't about being tricked or manipulated. It was conscious participation. A willing act of complicity in a plan that was no longer a rumor, it was a terrifying reality. As the truth about Operation Echo was exposed and encrypted data confirmed a direct link between Willow and Drew, everyone was shaken. Willow wasn't a victim of Drew's scheme, she was a part of it. This revelation left Carly speechless in shock and forced Jason, who had always sought to protect Willow, to reevaluate every belief he held about her. The things they thought were innocent or tragic now appeared to be a carefully crafted mask hiding cold, calculated intent. Willow, once seen as the embodiment of sacrifice and purity, was now being revealed as something else, complex, contradictory, and possibly dangerous. The real shock lay in the possibility that Willow had helped design the deception, using emotional tools like her love for Michael or her sorrow from a failed marriage to lower everyone's guard. While the public, the media, and even those closest to her like Jason and Carly argued over custody and her mysterious trip to Germany, Willow, guided by Drew, may have been executing critical steps in a larger plot. Perhaps smuggling classified documents, transferring intel to a hidden force, or even coordinating a strategic repositioning within the shadow network Drew controlled. What once seemed like emotional lies now looked like pre-programmed deceit, a deliberate rewriting of morality, conscience, and truth. This was a total transformation in how Willow was perceived, a new beginning to a fresh nightmare. The new horror wasn't born from emotional pain, but from the sickening realization that she might have become someone else, someone she once vowed never to be, the manipulator, the masked player, the betrayer of those who had trusted her most. And as this truth slowly unraveled, her relationships would burn down, layer by layer, Jason's trust, Carly's loyalty, even the sacred bond of fatherhood from Michael, all could collapse under the weight of an unforgivable betrayal. Worse still, this wasn't a plan Willow was pulled into against her will. It was deliberate, consensual, a clear choice between right and wrong, and she had chosen the shadows. She was no longer a victim, she was part of the crisis. And the most haunting part of all was the helplessness felt by those around her, realizing that she didn't need saving, she was fighting for the other side. The dark plan between Willow and Drew, buried beneath sweet lies and harmless smiles, was now exploding like a ticking time bomb, threatening to destroy everything they had ever built. And now, no one knows who Willow really is anymore. Drew and Willow are quietly orchestrating a comprehensive plan for domination, a long-term strategy prepared months in advance to secretly withdraw from General Hospital and transition to the next PH. ASE of a scheme only the two of them fully understand. What initially appeared to be emotional, personal decisions, such as stepping away from Michael or keeping distance from Carly, now reveal a deeper layer of calculated manipulation, wrapped in the guise of ambiguity and emotional pain. Drew, once seen as a heroic figure returning from the shadows, and Willow, the woman once cherished and protected, are slowly being revealed as key players in a dangerous game. Their every move has been carefully plotted not just to control a hospital, but to gain influence over the entire political, medical, and legal systems orbiting around them. What Spinelli has discovered makes both him and Jason unable to remain still. The data streams, the underground connections, the encrypted messages between Drew and an unidentified organization, along with timestamp logs that align with Willow's absence, all point toward a horrifying truth. The plan to leave GH turns out to be just a small component of a much larger restructuring mechanism, one that, by the way it's unfolding, could shift the power balance in Port Charles. Spinelli, the ever-reliable tech genius, finds himself overwhelmed for the first time. He uncovers a series of secret meetings, bank accounts with obscured origins, and a list of influential figures gradually being manipulated through means so subtle, only insiders could pull it off. Jason, meanwhile, realizes that this is no longer a simple game of friends and enemies. This is a battle between control and survival. Willow and Drew are reconfiguring their roles, not as former staff of General Hospital, but as those who now pull the strings from the outside, forcing the system to obey. Their departure isn't an escape. It's a removal from scrutiny, giving them the freedom to act unbound by ethics or public duty. They want control. They want to lead. And that realization forces Jason into urgent action, before everything spirals out of reach. But it's precisely the madness of this restructuring that makes everything spin further out of control. The changes don't just affect the hospital's infrastructure, they impact people, relationships, and trust. Carly, Sunny, board members, and patients alike are being unknowingly fed into a system of influence they don't realize exists. Distorted information, manipulated medical results, and unusual financial investments pouring into GH are all signs of a massive restructuring, enough to overthrow everything Jason thought he knew about the hospital. What makes it even more terrifying is the speed at which it's happening. Jason no longer sees signs of a small-time conspiracy. He sees the emergence of a new power structure. Willow, with her gentle face and tearful eyes, is becoming a new symbol of soft manipulation. She uses emotion, compassion, and her connection to Michael to hide the truth. She and Drew are slowly removing key players from GH, one by one. They don't need to destroy the hospital, they're turning it into their own. Now, Spinelli and Jason don't just need to act, they need to act urgently. With every passing hour, Willow and Drew move closer to their goal. The conspiracy must be exposed before GH becomes a political tool, where decisions are made not for patient care, but for strategic gain. This insane transformation, from a humanitarian hospital to a political chessboard, is something Jason never thought he'd witness. But it's happening. And if he doesn't act in time, this nightmare won't just be data on Spinelli's screen, it will become a brutal reality that crashes down on all of Port Charles. A new shock is quietly spreading across Port Charles as the truth begins to surface. Willow is not a willing accomplice in Drew's power manipulation plan. She is the next victim in his sophisticated and ruthless deception. What breaks hearts and fuels outrage is that Drew, once trusted as a man of integrity, a hero returned from the shadows, is now silently exploiting Willow's trust, emotions, and vulnerability for his own ambitious quest to dominate Port Charles. Every move Drew has made was calculated. Every word of comfort, every act of care toward Willow did not stem from love, but from a cold, strategic desire to turn her into his central pawn. A figure he could manipulate to unlock a much bigger door to power, far beyond General Hospital. In her confusion and emotional fragility following the collapse of her marriage to Michael, Willow became the perfect target. Drew didn't need threats or force, just promises of safety, validation, and a better future. Willow, always longing for emotional refuge, slowly walked into the trap he had laid out for her. But as the first signs of truth began to emerge, when Willow realized that what she was involved in wasn't about ideals or duty but about serving Drew's personal agenda, everything inside her began to crumble. She didn't just feel betrayed. She was overwhelmed by the growing fear that her own actions were contributing to the destruction of those she loved. This transformation, from a woman dreaming of healing and reconciliation to someone trapped in a web of manipulation, left Willow lost and deeply wounded. Each night, she is haunted by images of Michael, the children, Carly, and Jason, people who may now see her as a traitor. What were once safe memories are now blades cutting into her with every recollection. And the worst part? She doesn't know how to escape. Everything has gone too far. Every step forward drags her deeper into the dark spiral Drew has constructed. The damage is no longer just emotional or relational, it's destroying her reputation, trust, and entire life. Jason and Spinelli, upon grasping the full extent of what's happening, no, they can't sit still. They see clearly that Willow is no longer in control of herself. The conversations Spinelli recorded, the encrypted voice notes, and behavioral analyses from secret meetings, all reveal that Willow has been pushed into becoming an unofficial spokesperson for the dangerous goals Drew is pursuing. But in the midst of this madness, a new truth begins to form. Drew is losing his grip on Willow. She's beginning to waver, to fear. And that fear makes Drew tighten his hold, even threatening what she loves most if she dares resist. Every one of Drew's actions is now designed to keep Willow passive, controlled, and trapped. She is no longer a partner, she's become a hostage to the very plan Drew is determined to see through. And the horror Willow now endures is no longer just betrayal. It's the dread of knowing she's helping build a force she no longer controls. Every decision, every signature, every act she takes could be pushing Port Charles closer to collapse, a possibility that terrifies and exhausts her. Meanwhile, Jason is doing everything he can to pull Willow out of Drew's trap. But he knows it won't be easy. Willow is now imprisoned in an invisible cell of fear, lies, and psychological control. And if Jason and Carly don't act soon, Willow herself may inadvertently ignite the biggest crisis Port Charles has ever faced, a terrifying restructuring she never imagined she'd be at the center of. Willow's story is no longer one of a wounded woman. It's the story of a good soul broken by exploitation, and now, as the truth rises, only one question echoes in the hearts of those who once loved her. Can Willow still be saved? Or has she already been lost to the very darkness she once believed was her salvation? Jason and Carly are giving everything they have to pull Willow out of the thick darkness that Drew has carefully constructed around her. After uncovering a series of signs indicating that Willow is being mentally manipulated and used as a strategic pawn in Drew's plan to dominate Port Charles, they can no longer stand by in silence. Willow, once a symbol of serenity and compassion, is now drowning in emotional chaos, her thoughts distorted and manipulated to the point where she no longer knows what's right or wrong. Jason, driven by his fierce protective instincts and his lingering feelings for Willow, begins seeking every possible way to break the mental shackles Drew has wrapped around her. Carly, with the unwavering determination of a mother and the sharp intuition of a woman who's faced danger many times, dives deeper into the fight, not only to help Willow reclaim her autonomy, but also to protect her grandchildren, Wiley and Amelia. One of the first pivotal turning points for Jason and Carly comes when they notice disturbing changes in Willow's behavior. She becomes evasive, anxious, and suffers from vague panic attacks whenever Drew is mentioned or when asked about her involvement in legal documents. Willow is no longer herself. And that alone pushes Jason to act as he never has before, not just to save someone, but to salvage the essence of a person slowly being eroded by cruel and calculated psychological manipulation. At the same time, Carly opens a new front, fighting for legal custody and guardianship over Wiley and Amelia. She knows that as long as Drew maintains influence over Willow, the children will never be truly safe. But this movement inadvertently ignites a new underground war, turning everything into a no-return chess match. Drew, the mastermind behind it all, responds immediately with subtle countermeasures, leveraging legal networks to delay custody hearings, and manipulating public perception by leaking false narratives that paint Willow as emotionally unstable. He's playing a dangerous game, making others question Willow's sanity so he can lure her back under his control, obedient, broken, and dependent. Carly sees right through this ploy, and it only strengthens her resolve. The fight for custody is no longer just about legal rights, it's part of a larger battle to reclaim Willow, both physically and emotionally, before she's completely destroyed. Carly has faced many enemies, but never one as chilling as this, because this time, the person who needs saving is someone who was once family, a pillar of strength for her children, and is now turning into a tool in the hands of a power-hungry manipulator. Meanwhile, Jason is preparing for more direct action. He no longer believes that gentle words or negotiation will work. Willow is too deeply controlled now, and saving her will take more than conversation. It will require a shock, a major truth, a solid piece of evidence strong enough to snap her back to reality. To achieve this, Jason is tracking Drew's every move, ready to expose the conspiracy in a decisive confrontation, whether in court, behind closed doors, or even through a direct strike that will strip Drew of his ability to control anyone. In recent days, Carly has begun to notice subtle changes in Willow. She trembles at the mention of Drew's name. She hesitates when watching Amelia and Wiley play in the Spencer family garden. She sheds tears when Carly mentions Michael, as if a buried version of herself is trying to resurface from beneath the layers of manipulation. That flicker of recognition is the only fragile hope Carly and Jason have to move forward, to help Willow remember who she once was, what she once fought for, and what she stands to lose if she keeps sinking deeper into the darkness. But time is working against them. Drew is noticing the shift too. And he won't hesitate to erase whatever stands in the way of his plans, including Willow herself. The story is spiraling into madness. The shocks are no longer isolated events. They've become a chain reaction dragging everyone into a war they never wanted. Carly is no longer fighting for reputation or relationships, she's fighting for the innocent lives of children, now threatened by a powerful and covert system. Jason isn't fighting for personal feelings anymore, but for justice and humanity. And Willow, if not saved in time, will become the next casualty of one of the most insane psychological manipulations Port Charles has ever seen. As everything approaches a boiling point, one wrong move could unleash a storm no one will be able to contain.